Today we need to talk about something that is shaking the confidence of pensioners and families right across the United Kingdom. It's an update from HMRC, the government's tax authority, and it's one that could leave many pensioners hundreds of pounds out of pocket, at a time when every penny truly counts. The latest announcement highlights how HMRC is moving forward with a new adjustment that could see average deductions of around £300 directly from pensioners' bank accounts. Now, this isn't just an isolated case, and it's not a random charge. Officials insist that this is part of their ongoing efforts to correct tax discrepancies, chase unpaid liabilities, and make sure that tax relief is balanced fairly. But while the intention may sound technical and administrative, the impact on people's lives is anything but small. For pensioners already living on limited incomes, already juggling rising energy bills, expensive food shops, and mounting rent or council tax payments, this new deduction has sparked real fear. Because when you live on a fixed income, £300 isn't just a number on paper, it's heating for the winter, food on the table, or the ability to pay essential household bills. For many pensioners in the UK, the state pension is not just their main source of income. For a large number, it is their only source of income. That means there is no backup, no second wage, no cushion to fall back on. Even a small, unexpected deduction can feel significant. And when we are talking about an average figure of £300, we are talking about a deduction that could truly disrupt people's monthly survival budgets. So why exactly is HMRC doing this? Why now? According to officials, the purpose is to make sure that tax relief is applied fairly and that people with multiple sources of income do not slip through the cracks. For example, someone who is drawing their state pension, but also working part-time, or someone who is receiving a private pension alongside their state pension, might be affected. HMRC says the complexity of different income sources can sometimes mean that the right amount of tax isn't collected at the right time. These new adjustments are intended to address that. But critics are already asking tough questions. They point out that while the goal of fairness might sound reasonable, the system itself is so complicated that many pensioners don't even know how much tax they owe, or whether they are paying the right amount. And when the rules are confusing, when tax codes are wrong, or when communication from HMRC is full of technical language, the burden often falls hardest on older people, the very people who have done the responsible thing, worked for decades, and saved carefully for their retirement. What makes this even more unsettling is the way the deductions are being applied. HMRC has confirmed that in some cases, money can be taken directly from bank accounts through what is called the direct recovery of debt process. This means that banks are required by law to cooperate with HMRC and to transfer funds directly when tax is owed. In practice, that means a pensioner could wake up one morning, check their bank account, and discover that money has already been taken out, without warning, without a phone call, and sometimes without even understanding why. You can imagine the shock. You've budgeted carefully, you've set aside the money for your rent, or your gas bill, and suddenly, £300 is gone. The direct debit bounces. The rent is late. The cupboard looks emptier than it should. And with no clear explanation, you're left scrambling to find out what happened, often spending hours on hold to HMRC's helplines, struggling to make sense of confusing tax jargon. It is important to be clear, though, not every pensioner will be hit in exactly the same way. HMRC has stated that deductions are more likely for those with savings above certain thresholds, for those who are combining part-time work with pensions, or for those receiving both state and private pensions. In some cases, deductions could also be linked to benefit overpayments from previous years, where HMRC believes too much support was paid out. And while £300 is the average figure, some deductions may be smaller, but others could be higher, which means some households could be looking at an even greater loss. This is where the real frustration sets in. On the one hand, pensioners are told all their lives to save responsibly, to prepare for retirement, to avoid being a burden on the system. But on the other hand, once they do that, once they have savings, or private pensions, or even just a part-time job to top up their income, they can find themselves under closer scrutiny and subject to these new deductions. Banks play a crucial role in this entire system. Under the new arrangements, they are not just custodians of savings. They are active participants in HMRC's enforcement powers. For many pensioners, this feels like a loss of independence and control over their own money. You've worked for decades, paid into the system, saved carefully, and now a government agency can simply instruct your bank to hand over your cash. That's not just unsettling, it can feel like a betrayal of trust. And this deduction does not exist in isolation. It is part of a wider set of changes to pensions and benefits rolling out in 2025. Alongside these HMRC powers, there are new eligibility checks for benefits, potential adjustments to the state pension age, and stricter rules for pensioners who own property. Campaigners are warning that the £300 deduction is just one piece of a much bigger puzzle, a puzzle that could leave pensioners with less money, more uncertainty, and less control over their financial futures. Let's talk about what this means in real life. Many pensioners live on very tight, carefully managed budgets. Every week, they know exactly how much money is coming in, and exactly how much must go out for rent, for heating, for food, and for basic essentials. When £300 suddenly disappears, it isn't just an inconvenience, it can mean choosing between heating and eating. It can mean skipping meals, delaying bill payments, or even having to borrow money from family, friends, or payday lenders. And borrowing money at this stage of life can quickly spiral into long-term debt problems. Beyond the financial hit, there is also the emotional toll. The stress and anxiety of not knowing when or how much might be deducted can be crushing. Pensioners already face uncertainty over rising prices, energy bills, and healthcare costs. Adding unpredictable deductions into the mix only increases the mental strain. One of the biggest criticisms of this policy is the lack of transparency. While HMRC insists it has the legal authority to make these deductions, it is not always clear to pensioners what rights they have to appeal, to request repayment plans, or to challenge calculations that may be wrong. Communication from HMRC is often filled with complicated language that few ordinary people can understand. And for elderly pensioners who may not have access to online resources, who may not feel confident navigating websites and tax codes, this lack of clarity can be overwhelming. So what can pensioners actually do to protect themselves? Experts are recommending a few practical steps. First, it is crucial to check your HMRC tax code regularly. Mistakes in tax codes are more common than people realize, and they can lead to underpayments that later result in deductions. Second, consider spreading savings across different accounts, so that if one account is targeted for deductions, you are not left without access to all of your money. Third, seek advice from pension advisory services before making large withdrawals or financial decisions. And most importantly, if you believe a deduction has been applied unfairly or incorrectly, do not hesitate to challenge it. You have the right to appeal, and being informed is the first line of defense. Campaigners and charities are also increasing pressure on the government to review HMRC's powers. They argue that pensioners should not be disproportionately targeted to fill gaps in the tax system. Some groups are calling for independent reviews, exemptions for pensioners, and a minimum protection threshold that ensures essential savings remain safe. But looking ahead, the picture could become even more worrying. Experts warn that if these deductions become routine, they may not stop at tax adjustments. In the future, similar powers could be used to collect council tax arrears, energy debts, or even overpaid benefits. If that happens, pensioners could face a situation where more and more of their money is taken directly from their bank accounts without warning. The confirmed £300 deduction may sound like a technical adjustment in the government's eyes, but it raises far bigger questions about financial security in retirement and about how much control individuals have over their own money. For many, it is not about the numbers on a spreadsheet, it is about independence, dignity, and peace of mind after a lifetime of work. So what's the takeaway? Pensioners and their families need to stay informed. Check your tax codes. Keep an eye on your accounts. Ask questions. Challenge anything that doesn't look right. And most importantly, spread awareness. Too many pensioners still don't know these changes are coming. The months ahead will be crucial in shaping how this policy is applied and whether new protections are introduced to prevent unnecessary hardship. We will continue to bring you the latest updates on pensions, benefits, and financial changes that affect millions across the country. If you are worried about how these HMRC changes might impact you or a loved one, stay tuned, stay prepared, and make sure you are not caught by surprise. Thank you for watching. If you found this update useful, please consider liking the video, sharing it with friends or family members who may benefit, and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. Do you feel these deductions are a fair part of the tax system? Or do they place far too much strain on people who are already managing on limited means? We'd love to hear your perspective, and together, we can shine a light on this issue before it affects even more lives.